Because a Bay former Leader-class figure is so complex, and knowing how my video reviews for CollectionDX usually operate, I'm going to be breaking this review down into two separate videos. While one video will be detailing the individual modes and the features contained within each, the other video will detail exclusively the transformation process from robot mode into vehicle mode. Before I start the transformation process, there's two little things I need to bring up. The first is that shortly after I had transformed Ironhide back into robot mode the first time, I noticed one of the screws is actually missing from underneath his main windshield. Obviously that's a problem with just mine, but it doesn't seem to hinder things too much since it's wound up pretty tight in here. But just be aware to look for that. So yeah, there's that. Anyways, the thing I noticed out of the box is that the way the kibble is treated in back is actually different from the way it's actually supposed to go. It's not a big thing where I have to mention that, oh, this is something instructions missed. The instructions don't even talk about this, so it's not that big of a deal. All that you need to do, it'll work this way as long as there's friction here and up here, so that's not an issue, but just officially, there's a little tab right there in the middle. Not these two on the sides, but the one in the middle. And it fits into that slot right there. That is officially how the kibble on back is supposed to work. So just thought you'd like to know that. The easiest part of its transformation is obviously the legs. All you're going to do, flip these around, realign these, put these together. They only snap right here. There's nothing up here. Push the feet up and the toes, and that's it. That's all you do with the legs. And yes, you could keep both of the MechTech weapons inside when he's in vehicle mode. That's not going to be an issue, even though the missile launcher is sticking out a little bit right there. So that's it for that. Pretty much what happens at this point is you just kind of loosen everything up, reconfigure it, and then slam it all back together at the same time. That's basically what happens. Some preliminaries first. The butt flap. And this will only bend to 90 degrees like this. Don't go beyond that or you will break it. Necessary little detail right here. Now let's get it to the serious stuff. It's a nice tight joint there, but the problem is actually getting your finger under there in order to open it up. Opening up the wheels exposes these right here. It's a little confusing the first few times, but basically, once you get the shoulders to about there, the rest of it is just dealing with the elbow. By the way, this is the battery compartment right here. Single screw right there, and batteries are side by side. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to deal with that double elbow joint I was talking about in the other video. There's that joint. Open up the kibble so I can show you what I'm doing, and then twist it this way. There is a tab right there, which goes into the slot right there under his forearm. It's not too difficult. I mean, once you know where it is, yeah, that's a little annoying. Can't be helped, unfortunately. But once you know where the arm is supposed to go, it gets easier. Ah, summer has finally come to Washington State, huh? There's tabs in right there. We're going to open up on the kibble doors here, we're just going to open up that and that. Now you'll notice, not only is the grill light gray, but it doesn't have the GMC marking on it. Grill and GMC marking on it. So, which means these are fake. So this little ball joint right here, these things are really annoying because they will pop off first chance they get. So it's best to just keep some pressure on it as you just flip this up and over. I understand why they did it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. And there's a tab right there. You fit into the slot right there. Like that. Oh, there. See? Right there. Popped off. I haven't transformed this thing yet from robot into vehicle or from vehicle into robot, where that has not happened. It just always happens. Come on, get in there. Okay, should not be giving me this much trouble. There we go. I think those tabs are the only things that hold the wheels in place. There might be another peg somewhere inside there, but I'm not sure. While we're in the area, fold this down, and you just got to wiggle it past the front of the cab. It doesn't really peg into place, it just fits real nicely. So there's that. And then to close things up. Now, unfortunately, the legs will not lock into the position. They'll always droop down a little bit. But what you have to do, fold this down, just line this up nicely. Don't let that open up. Put this down. And then you have to get the, whatever this section here is over these tabs. And that will hold everything in place. Just like that. And then lastly, fold this over. And not the tab I was talking about earlier, but these two pegs over here. Ironhide's getting anxious. He wants to get into vehicle mode. And there. That. In there. Don't let that plane fly overhead, please. I want to finish this video. Of course, whenever I rush. There we go. Got it. There you have Leader-class Ironhide covered in sweat. It is summer, after all. Whew. Now, there's something else about this toy that I want to bring up, which is actually new to all of the figures from Transformers Dark of the Moon. This is something new that Hasbro is doing. Well, actually, it doesn't have much to do with the toy itself, but rather with the instructions. Now, traditionally, up to this point, it's always been black and white line art with maybe a little bit of colored section or something right here. But if you look closely, you'll actually notice that not only is it not a drawing, this is actually the toy that's being transformed here. It's not something that somebody drew out, but this is actually the toy that a photographer handled with. And by the way, just in case you're wondering, this is not CGI modeling either, because I can tell when panel lines have been shifting around, and I actually see screw holes in some of these places here. So all the instructions, these are actually all photographs, and I'm really, really pleased to say that helped tremendously. Yes, they colored sections and they still give you arrows, as is, you know, traditional, but to have them actually using the toy, they can always double check themselves. So I don't think I'll ever have to bring up something that says what the instructions don't tell you, because the instructions are what the toy is, what the person photographing it shows. So unless this is a concept model that you see here, which, you know, is certainly possible, Hasbro, good work on this. I'm sure a lot of people are going to appreciate this. So this is new for Transformers Dark of the Moon toys. So, yay. I really have to talk about my opinions regarding shell formers and kibble formers, which are more or less the same thing. Usually there's a variety of factors that go into whether I like a toy or whether I don't, and usually shell formers, kibble formers, if it looks good, I don't mind. If it functions well, I don't mind. Actually, now that I think about it, a lot of the toys that I have, I don't think any of them are shell formers. Well, that's not entirely true. I do have Cybertron Decepticon Chromia, who's very much a shell former, but, you know, I didn't like the robot mode much to begin with, so, whatever. But like I said, if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. So, shell formers, kibble formers, don't really mind all that much. Kibble can be annoying at times, and it can get in the way of things when you're transforming, but, that's just how Transformers work. But, in this case, For a leader-class toy, dare I use the phrase shell former? For a leader-class toy to be labeled a shell former, that's pretty significant. And I say shell former because, let's see, this panel just gets set on the back. The doors here in the front half of the bed, those all just fold up underneath and form the kibble and back. The nose sections here on the side, yeah, that forms the chest or whatever, but again, it's just a little shell thingy that moves around. I suppose that's a bay form aesthetic. I shouldn't complain about that. But the road armor, front bumper, the grill, the top middle of the hood here, this and this, even this panel back here, all those things just fold up somewhere else, so that a majority of the truck exterior, with the exception of the undercarriage, of course, ends up being just part of the shell. And by the way, this is not just any shell former, but it's a bay former shell former. That's pretty bad. If I have to put bay former and shell former into the same sentence, that's significant. That's a bit of an issue. And I think the majority of reason for that, which I detailed in the other video, is that this toy suffers from the gimmick syndrome. If you think about it, let's see. Can I do this without taking a ton of things apart? I think I can. I know I can. If you think about it, all that happens... come on. I'm making an idiot of myself today. Oh, guess I'd have to lift this up as well. Figures. Just digging a hole for yourself, Ava. Okay, that's up. And so is that as well. That's annoying. That's going to just have to stay like that. Okay, come on, get up there. That was embarrassing. Okay, if you look at this toy from the side view, here's the legs, here's the torso and the head, and here is the arms. Basically, in order to transform this thing, you're just putting the arms behind the back, twisting the legs around, and that's it. That's all you're doing. You've got the lower legs have MechTech in them, the arms have MechTech in them, the torso has MechTech and light and sound with the little movable face feature thing. So you have to preserve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections, and then have everything else happen around the outside of it, because you can't have those sections be interrupted. Excuse me a moment while I make an idiot of myself once more. Yes, I already showed you this. You know, I'm just going to fast forward to this section. I'm probably going to sound like right now. Yep. Well, that was embarrassing. I suppose it's my own fault for only wanting to partially transform it without disconnecting everything else first. So, sorry about that. But anyways, everything involved in the transformation here happens around the outside of those 5 major sections. And he doesn't really transform. The arms just kind of reposition themselves. The legs just flip around 180 at the knees. I mean, nothing happens with the head or the torso. And that's it. It's a very simple transformation in a leader-class figure. The question becomes, is the transformation too simple for all of the gimmicks that we got out of it? We've got MechTech in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. Are those 5 individual MechTech features and electronic feature worth the simplified transformation? For me, it's disappointing that there is not a more involved transformation, at least in the legs. I would gladly have sacrificed the extra knife and the little missile launcher in there in order to get a more involved transformation process. I would gladly have sacrificed that. I mean, look how much is hanging out under there. That's ridiculous. I know usually with wheeled vehicles you don't worry too much about the undercarriage kibble, but my God, seriously? So that's something that actually a lot of people have been complaining about, is that it has an oversimplified transformation process. That's something that a lot of trans fans are complaining about. And you know what? I'm right up there alongside them. And as you saw a few moments ago, it is a bit panel-centric. You have to line up everything just so, or else, if one little thing goes wrong, something like that happens. Now, to be fair, the transformation itself is not that difficult. Actually taking it from vehicle mode into robot mode, you can actually do it faster, because it's just kind of, that's whatever. But it's fiddling around with the arms and maybe the front of the hood here. Those are probably the most difficult things you have to deal with. But that kind of comes to my final conclusion here, that not only is this kind of sort of a shell former, and can I say block former, maybe? I guess, because it is 5 separate blocks with a bunch of kibble around it. So not only is it a shell former and a block former, but it's actually less complex in transforming than a standard-sized deluxe class figure, of which I have none from Dark of the Moon at this point. And like I said in the other video, the redundancy of the electronic features, both in deploying that MechTech cannon and in the head, that took up a lot of unnecessary space. So I would gladly have sacrificed the redundancy in those and the missile launcher and the knife in the back, in the lower legs, in order to get a more complicated transformation. And indeed, the transformation in Voyager-class Ironhide from 2007 and 2009, it was all about the what was it called? It was all about, I just drew a blank. What is it? Automorph technology. It was all about automorph, which, the leg itself was not very complicated because it had to make room for all the panels and thingies that were happening in there. So, yeah, you did have to kind of help it along, such as I am right now. But, automorph was cool. Of course, it was a little on the primitive side, still working the kinks out, but still, automorph was cool, so it was understandable why it is the leg itself wasn't doing much transformation. And obviously the arms weren't doing much transformation either. So, yeah, this was okay. It's a little fragile, but, it worked. Whereas this, certainly not fragile, but it's unfortunately too simple. I mean, it actually takes me longer to transform Scout-class Scalpel from the second movie, who has a broken leg, by the way, than it does a Leader-class figure developed 2 years later. If it was a Voyager or a Deluxe class figure, you wouldn't hear me complaining about this. But this is, as I've said before, the best of the best, a Leader class figure. So, I don't like that. And I've spent way too much time complaining about it, but I wanted to make certain that my position was clear. I don't mind a simplified transformation. I don't mind having the extra gimmicks. But in a Leader class figure, it's a bit on the unacceptable side. So hopefully they make a new version of Leader-class Autobot Ironhide sometime in the distant future, 5-6 years from now or something like that. They can get rid of some of the mech tech and kind of refine the process. Hopefully, willingly, they'll do it. But in the meantime, I suppose this will just have to do. Oh, by the way, we totally got a Leader-class Ironhide figure after 6 years of waiting. Woohoo! This is AV Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com, signing off.